Hi, everybody from the Washington Times. It's Tim Constantine, joined as I am every week by our good friend for America, Dave Bozell. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I don't know if you know this, but there was a speech last night. The president had a joint session of Congress and shared some thoughts with him. Did you happen to see this?
It's my job. I got to watch this stuff all 2 hours, plus the
It was
pregame,
it
plus
was
the
like a
postgame.
major motion picture. You know, there are some movies nowadays you think 90 minutes is a fair guess, but The Godfather, it's okay that those movies go much longer. They're very entertaining. I had a friend who is not a politico, not somebody who normally follows it, out in Colorado, who kept sending me notes last night how entertained he was by the speech. We didn't talk substance, we didn't talk whether or not he liked it. He was just laughing and having a great time. And I thought, maybe that's the magic to this thing.
Well, it's better than most of what else you were you're going to find on a Tuesday night in the middle of the winter. I mean, football's over with. Nobody's watching the NBA anymore. March Madness hasn't started up in earnest, so there's not much going on. Why not watch the 2 hours of the President of the United States just sticking it to the Democrats in every which way that he possibly could? Gosh, those guys need pacifiers in the worst way to shut themselves up. I mean, it's just some despicable behavior out of the Democrats. And we all know, if people who watched it, not applauding for a young man who's getting his badge to be a Secret Service agent, not applauding the daughters and the wife of the gentleman who was killed in Butler, not applauding anything. Apparently, I finally got a report this morning. No Democrats stood for a single thing last
No,
night
it was
in 2 hours.
clearly planned ahead of time.
Yeah.
Absolutely clearly planned. They said, okay, we're not going to applaud. We're not going to acknowledge. We're not going to do anything. They held their silly little signs up that said Musk steals or faults or whatever. But you're right. I mean, let's go down the list. There's the young boy with cancer. Wouldn't applaud for him. Started out, they wouldn't applaud for the First Lady of the United States. I'm thinking, you may not like, Al Green may not like Donald Trump, but what has Melania ever done? It's the First Lady. Some polite applause, like a golf clap, won't hurt anybody. No applause. Little boy with cancer, no applause. Talking about law enforcement, the men and women who put their life on the line every day, and the cop out on Long Island who was killed in duty, not a single bit. Over and over and over, things that clearly should be something we can all agree on, wouldn't acknowledge 1 ounce.
How about when Donald Trump announced the acquisition of a terrorist and that he was en route? I mean, we can't even applaud the arrest of a terrorist in this country. I mean, I think the Democrats keep doing what you're doing, guys. Keep bringing your Fogo de Chao paddles to these things and asking for more meat to get slapped over the head with. Keep doing that. And watch your numbers just continue to sink into the toilet. I saw polling today suggesting that Democrat congressional approval is at 21. I mean, 21. That is as low as you could possibly go. 80% of the country disapproves of Democrats right now.
Well, and it was interesting because you mentioned how, Trump just stuck it to him. And I remember thinking at the first portion of this, as he was doing it, thinking, maybe that's not the right approach. Maybe this should be a unifying speech. And yet, as it went on, and as they interrupted his speech, as they hollered, as Al Green left the chambers, as others got up and voluntarily left the chambers, as they refused to applaud, I thought, no, he has clearly taken the right tact because the Democrats aren't being reasonable. You and I watch this. We're conservative, so maybe we're skewed. And so I started looking at the polls. And last night, CNN, who hates Donald Trump, did a poll in the immediate aftermath only of people who had watched the speech. 66% approved. This is a CNN poll. And 2 out of 3 people in America who watched the speech approved, thought Trump had done a nice job in this speech. I went to CBS. CBS did a poll. CBS, the folks who edited Kamala Harris's speech to try to make it more advantageous for her so she could beat Trump. They are no fans of Trump. They did a poll, and 76%, 3 out of 4. When's the last time 3 out of 4 Americans agreed on anything? 76% approved of the president's speech. 91%, 91% said that either he addressed a lot of what they were concerned about or a little bit about what they were concerned about. The president was addressing the issues that are important to Americans, whether you're independent, Democrat, or Republican. And those are polls from agencies that really dislike the president.
Well, I turned on CNN right after the speech. I heard the word divisive uttered about a half a dozen times in 10 seconds. You could see that they had gotten their own memo. Let's call this thing divisive and see if we can drive a wedge between Trump and the American people. It did not work. I actually saw the subsequent poll this morning that said they had listed the word divisive as a respondent, and it was the lowest response. 46% of the country said it was divisive. So CNN's approach is not working. I would love to know, Tim, wouldn't you love to be in the back room of a Democrat, strategy room right now to see how they tackle this? It's just the same. They're making the same mistakes as it relates to DOGE and some of the federal funding. These guys have got to start showing the American people if there is good coming out of these federal investments. These Democrats need to start putting that into the limelight before it gets eradicated any further. Because if they cannot point to any good, if they cannot point to any accomplishments with the hundreds of billions of dollars that we are spending with our taxpayer dollars with these things, I put it on the Democrats to prove it. I put it on the Democrats to prove that these investments were worth it. If they cannot do it, then these things are going to go away, and I'll be happy to see them go away. The fact that they're spending their time with paddles and T-shirts and coordinating videos that say with the same script and not spending any time proving that federal investments in their USAID, et cetera, are doing what they intended, tells you everything you need to know about how out of touch they really are.
It's like a high school glee club. When I was a kid, we were the Rams. My high school was the Rams. Our arch enemy, the witches. Yeah. And we would spend all kinds of time doing exactly what you just described, making signs and things that didn't like the witches. Beat the witches. That's about the level of what the Democrats did last night. They had T-shirts that said resist. They had their little paddles. And I will tell you, you and I may say this and people will say they're conservative, but the Democrats are clearly out of touch right now, out of step with what America in general wants. I've got a couple of passionate Trump hater friends that no matter what he says or does, they hate him. And okay, that's their opinion. But when I start talking about issues, and you mentioned cutting costs on various things, and I start talking about issues, they agree on the issue. If I can keep the conversation away from Trump, they agree. So when the Democrats stand up, like the governor of Maine, and is fighting for transgender rights, they are totally tone deaf to what America is thinking. 81% of Americans don't want boys playing in girls' sports. It's not hard to see. That's 80%. How do you fight that? Why would you fight that?
I mean, Donald Trump said to a nation of children, "You're perfect the way you are." I am old enough to remember where the Democrats, where the homosexual lobby is still one of the more powerful lobbies in town. And their mantra was, we're born that way, right? We're perfect. And they could not even applaud Trump calling a nation of children, "You're perfect the way they are." It's really sad that their Trump derangement syndrome has gotten in their way. They cannot sort of put one foot in front of the other. And this is why James Carville wrote in the New York Times over the weekend, don't do anything. What should the Democrat response be? Just crawl into a foxhole and don't do anything. And hopefully maybe Trump trips up on his own. And this is why Carville came to that conclusion. He looked across the landscape at what Democrats were offering as possible strategic solutions and realized none of that is good enough. And so his recommendation was don't do anything.
I think the mistake there is Trump is moving right now. Trump is prone to saying things he shouldn't say from time to time. That wasn't the case last night. That's not been the case lately. He has momentum, and there's some reason why he does. You look at the border numbers. Joe Biden's final month, there were 189,000 people that were caught trying to cross the border illegally. Donald Trump's first month, there were 8,000. 189,000 versus 8,000. And what that is he has empowered Border Patrol to do their job. He is actually, and of course, he's pushing Mexico and Canada to assist in that effort, but he's doing the job. And his line last night where he said, oh, the Democrats were pushing for a new law. We need a new law to fix this. But all you really needed was a new president. That was a great line. But I thought that new law, if you remember, that new law allowed 5,000 illegals every day. It made the first 5,000 a free pass every single day. And so, when you look and he had 8,000 for the entire month, Donald Trump was criticized for not wanting that law to pass last year to deal with the border. But as it turns out, Donald Trump was right, because instead of 5,000 a day, they had 8,000 for the entire month.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still wondering what James Langford was thinking when he negotiated that. I don't know why anyone thought that would be appealing. Let's allow 5,000 illegal immigrants to come in. We'll just cap it. We promise that'll be the top of the top number every single day. I don't know what James Langford was thinking, other than he was probably being steered by Mitch McConnell, who he hates Trump just as much as some Democrats do. And he just did not want to see Trump get any sort of a win, even though it benefits the country in the short and the long term. So he was absolutely right to be bragging about his success at the border. They've done a terrific, terrific job. If I had a frustration, it's just, what we talk about a lot, Tim, is just the lack of get up and go with Congress. Okay. Mike Johnson should have had everything that Trump has asked for. He should have had that in a bill ready to rock this morning, and he should have passed it today. And he could have done it. And why they sort of get in their own way, I still haven't figured all that out. But Mike Johnson and the Republican leadership apparatus could have had a bill echoing the president ready to rock this morning. And they should have done
You make a very important point there, and that's probably a good place for us to wrap up, is I think the Democrats thought that this joint session would be an opportunity for them to expose him. I don't know about what, but to expose him and to interrupt. Instead, what we see is Trump coming out of there. If 76% of Americans think that was a good speech, 76% of the people that watched it think it was a good speech, then he comes out of there with an amazing momentum. You heard him talk all January about, we won the Electoral College, we won the vote, we won all the swing states, we've got the momentum. And they love to quote Obama, elections have consequences, and they move full steam ahead. If anything, last night doubled down on that.
Yes. And your point about Democrats hoping they could trip Trump up, probably some Republicans hoped that would have happened, sadly. And maybe that's why these bills aren't ready to rock and roll. But there's still time in the day. There's still time this week. Capitalize on this momentum, guys, and get this agenda passed and codified into law.
All right, my friend, have yourself a good remainder of the week. It's always a pleasure. For America, he is David Bozell. I'm Tim Constantine. Thanks for joining us.